Let's bring in Bob Costas, who joins us now. You guys didn't flex into this game, did you, Bob?
We did not. In fact, we flexed out of an interview that we might have had with Ozzie. We were going to do a full-length, hour-long thing with him, which just seemed like a natural thing to do since we were calling the ball game, to take some time to do it, one of those Studio 42 programs, because there's certainly enough background with Ozzie, and he's certainly an interesting enough character even without this incident. But then when this incident occurred, that went away, and understandably so, because for now, Ozzie and the Marlins feel like they've addressed it, and they can't do much good revisiting it, and that decision makes sense to me. If I was on their side of the fence, that's what I would do too.
5 games. As I said, it's hard for me to say that is warranted or now I'm satisfied, let's move on, because his words didn't hurt me. I can only try to understand this. Your thoughts on that penalty, punishment for him?
Punishment seems fine. I was listening to you before I came on, and I think you're right. The dent to his reputation, the blowback, the negative blowback he's going to get in that community, the fact that even Ozzie, who sometimes is oblivious to the effects of the words he utters, even Ozzie must get it now. That's a much more severe outcome than the 5 games. Hard to say, 5 games, 10 games, 15 games. There isn't an exact precedent that I can think of for this situation, exactly this situation. So I don't know what the yardstick is, but they had to do something. They did something right away when they didn't just distance themselves from the comments, but there was no ambiguity about it. They said, look, there's absolutely nothing to respect about Fidel Castro. There's nothing in these statements that can be excused. So they said that right off the bat. Probably it was heartfelt, but there's also a business reason given the demographics there and everything else. And then they hit him with the suspension on top of it. I think it shows that they understand the severity of the offense.
You have the commissioner in a photo op with Fidel Castro when they played games in Cuba, and this is over a decade ago. It's just hard. Now, the commissioner has been quiet on this, and I think, rightfully so, he's let the Marlins handle it. But how do you issue or, send out punishment, and you're sitting next to Fidel Castro, where you're not saying, I love the guy.
Yeah.
Still sitting next to him.
Well, when heads of state, and in a certain sense, Bud Selig is baseball's head of state, when heads of state or representatives of institutions visit other countries, there are pictures, there are photo ops. Nixon shakes hands with the heads of China when he reopens China in the 1970s. That stuff happens. People who are mortally opposed have photo ops of one kind or another. So I think a mere photo op doesn't necessarily, render baseball hypocritical in this situation.
Yeah, but I know that there's a greater good if a president is sitting next to, a dictator or a bad guy. This is business for the commissioner and maybe, some kind of relationship with Cuba, considering the players that we've taken or that they've, that they've come over here to play. It's different. There's world peace and then there's world baseball.
Yeah, I'm not sure I thought this one through, and I don't want to say anything that I'd later regret or want to amend. It seems to me that some sort of cordial relationship as regards baseball between the commissioner's office and Castro, without implying any approval of anything else that Castro represents or has done, seems to make sense, given the fact that players have and continue to come in one way or another from Cuba, and there may come a day when that flow of players is more open than it is now.
He's Bob Costas. He'll be calling the Marlins at the Phillies tomorrow night with Jim Cott, part of MLB Network's schedule of 30 games featuring 30 clubs, all 30 clubs this month. MLB Network available on DirecTV Channel 213. By the way, Ryan Seacrest at the Olympics. Who's working with Ryan Seacrest?
You are, Dan.
I am.
Yeah. It's all you, Dan.
So am I sort of a Jennifer Lopez to him? Am I?
No, you're Randy, dog.
Oh. You're going to be. Will you do that? Will you say dog to him when he's on with you? Because you're prime time. I mean, you're doing the important stuff. Seacrest is not going to be down with, bottom feeders like me.
It's not 100% clear to me what Ryan is doing, but we're happy to have him. I think it's mostly, interviews with non-athlete types, celebrity types who are there. The exact role hasn't been spelled out. I think in some places He was listed as the co-host of the Olympics, which probably comes as a mild surprise to you, to me, to Al Michaels, to whomever else. But, all this stuff works out.
But if he does this, Bob, the winner of the decathlete after the break. If he does that, then I'll strangle him.
I think actually we're moving toward where there is at least an audience participation component, if only in these subjective areas, perhaps not in the 100-meter dash. It's clear-cut that Usain Bolt got there first. But in the gymnastics, we have the judges' scores, and then, in fact, we could have a text possibility, and America could weigh in, and perhaps that would be 10 to 20% of the outcome, and would involve more viewers and jack up the ratings. And I'd hate to think that anyone in the television or Olympic business would even consider such a thing.
Could you imagine if Seacrest is there and he's standing next to one of the contestants, rhythmic gymnastics or something, and say,
right.
If you would like to vote for Svetlana Abrasimova, her number is 08.
I've never met Ryan Seacrest, although we've exchanged phone calls this past week, and everybody who does know him tells me he's a really good guy. If they use him, as I'm sure they will, in a way that plays to his strengths and his appeal to the audience, the Olympics, let's all acknowledge it, is different from any other sports event or presentation of a sports event. Yeah, athletes and their performances are at the heart of it. But there's a whole bunch of other stuff that goes into it, the pageantry of the opening ceremony, the interest that at least some viewers have in the backgrounds of the competitors, the human interest aspect of it. It's a hybrid of sports and entertainment. Let's just be honest about it. So is it okay to bring in someone whose background is primarily entertainment? Yeah, as long as it's confined to the parts where that's most effective.
Good to visit with you. Have fun Thursday night, Bob.
You got it, Dan. Take care.
All right,
Bye.
Bob Costas, Marlins, Phillies, 7 Eastern. With Jim Conn. Costas, out. Part of MLB Network schedule. 30 games, all 30 clubs. MLB Network available on DirecTV, Channel 213.